The city moved fast that morning. Cars honked impatiently. People rushed past the glass towers with coffee cups in hand, eyes glued to their phones. Nobody noticed the little girl standing near the entrance of the tallest building on the block, nobody except the man she was waiting for. At exactly 8 a.m., a black luxury car pulled up to the curb. The driver stepped out first, scanning the area out of habit. Then Daniel Carter emerged, the CEO whose name was whispered in boardrooms and printed in business magazines. His tailored suit fit perfectly, his posture sharp, his face calm and unreadable. He was a man who controlled numbers, people, and outcomes. Or so he believed. As Daniel adjusted his cufflinks and took his first step toward the building, a small voice broke through the noise of the city. "Sir, could you pretend to be my daddy, just for one day?" Daniel stopped. He turned slowly, certain he had imagined it. But there she was. A little girl stood barely reaching his waist, holding a faded pink backpack to her chest like a shield. Her hair was tied into uneven pigtails, one ribbon clearly older than the other. Her shoes were scuffed, too thin for the season, and her knees showed small bruises children collect simply by living. Her eyes, however, were impossible to ignore. They were wide, hopeful, and trembling with fear, as if she had practiced this moment 100 times and still wasn't sure she was brave enough. Daniel cleared his throat. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" She swallowed hard and repeated it, quieter this time. "Could you pretend to be my daddy? Just for today. I won't ask again." People passed them without slowing down. To them, it was just another child, another interruption. To Daniel, it felt like the world had tilted slightly off its axis. He looked around. "Where's your mother?" Before the girl could answer, a woman came running toward them, breathless and embarrassed. "Oh my God, Lily," the woman said. "I told you to stay right here." "I'm so sorry, sir, she shouldn't have bothered you." The woman looked exhausted. Not the kind of tired sleep fixes, but the kind that settles into your bones after years of trying not to fall apart. Her coat was worn, her hands rough, her eyes apologetic before Daniel had even spoken. Lily tightened her grip on the man's suit jacket. "Mama, please," she whispered. "Just ask him." Daniel felt the tug, not strong enough to wrinkle the fabric, but strong enough to pull something inside his chest. He gently freed his jacket. "It's all right," he said calmly. "She didn't bother me." Lily looked up at him, then reached into her backpack and pulled out a folded piece of paper, smoothing it nervously before handing it over. Daniel unfolded it. At the top, in colorful letters, it read, "Bring your dad to school day." Below were hand-drawn hearts and stick figures. One figure had been erased and redrawn several times. Daniel's eyes moved to the date. "Today. I don't have a daddy," Lily said quickly, as if afraid he would leave before she finished. "Mine went to heaven. But today we're supposed to bring one. My teacher said it's okay if I bring someone who loves me." Her voice cracked on the last word. The woman turned her face away, ashamed. "Her father passed away 2 years ago," she said softly. "She's been counting down to this day. I work double shifts. I can't leave." Daniel folded the paper carefully, as though it were something fragile. "I see," he said. He should have said no. Every rule he lived by told him to say no. He had a packed schedule, a press conference at noon, shareholders waiting for him to make tough decisions that affected thousands of employees. His life didn't allow for detours. Yet Lily stood there, rocking slightly on her heels, hands clenched together. "I know you're busy," she said quickly. "You look important. But my mama said important people can do kind things too." Daniel exhaled slowly. "Why me?" he asked. Lily looked at him seriously. "Because you don't look scared. And because you stopped." That answer hit harder than logic ever could. Daniel glanced toward the building, then back at the girl. Somewhere deep inside, a memory stirred, himself at 8 years old, standing alone after school, waiting for a father who never came. He hadn't thought about that in decades. He checked his watch. 8:07 a.m. 7 minutes late. For the first time in years, it didn't matter. He knelt down so he was eye level with her. The city noise faded as if the world itself was holding its breath. "One day," he said gently. "Just today. I'll walk you in, sit with you, and then I go back to being me." Lily's eyes widened. "Really? Really?" She threw her arms around his neck before he could react. The woman gasped. "Sir, you don't have to." "It's all right," Daniel said, standing slowly as Lily clung to his hand now like it belonged there. "Tell me where the school is." As they walked toward the bus stop together, Lily talked non-stop, about her classroom, her best friend who had glitter pencils, and the cupcakes she hoped they'd get to eat. Daniel listened, surprised by how natural it felt. At the corner, Lily suddenly stopped. She looked up at him seriously. "You won't disappear, right?" Daniel met her gaze. "No," he said. "Not today." And for the first time in a long time, Daniel Carter, the man who controlled everything, had no idea that this single promise was about to change his entire life. Daniel Carter had walked into rooms filled with senators, billionaires, and hostile investors without a flicker of fear. But the elementary school hallway made his palms sweat. The walls were covered in crayon drawings and crooked letters spelling "Welcome Dads." Paper ties and cardboard trophies hung from strings taped unevenly to the ceiling. The smell of glue sticks and juice boxes replaced the sterile scent of polished marble he was used to. Lily held his hand tightly. "Don't worry," she whispered, sensing his tension. "You just have to smile." He almost laughed. They stepped into the classroom together. For a brief moment, everything stopped. Conversations faded. Chairs creaked as parents turned to look. Some eyes widened in surprise at the man in the tailored suit standing among fathers in worn jeans and work boots. Daniel felt every stare, every unspoken question. Then Lily let go of his hand and ran forward. "That's my daddy," she announced proudly. The room exhaled. A few parents smiled politely. A few whispered. One man raised an eyebrow. Daniel straightened his posture instinctively, ready to retreat, but Lily was already pulling him toward a small chair that looked like it had been designed for dolls. "Sit here," she said. He sat. The chair protested, but Lily didn't notice. She handed him a crayon. "Blue. This is your favorite color today." Daniel stared at the crayon as if it were a foreign object. He hadn't held one since he was a child. Carefully, he drew a crooked house beside Lily's bright sun. "Good job," she said seriously. "You're learning." Something warm stirred in his chest. The teacher, Ms. Alvarez, clapped her hands. "All right, everyone, let's begin our Father's Day activities." As the morning unfolded, Daniel found himself doing things no quarterly report had ever prepared him for. He glued paper hearts, helped Lily cut along dotted lines, and pretended not to notice when glitter stuck to his suit sleeve. Every few minutes, Lily would look up at him, just to check. And every time she did, he was still there. Snack time came. Lily proudly handed him half her cupcake, chocolate frosting smudged across her nose. "Daddies always share," she said. He took it. It tasted better than anything he'd eaten in years. Then came the final activity. Ms. Alvarez smiled warmly. "Children, please stand up one by one and tell us why your dad is special." Daniel's heart began to pound. One child stood. "My dad fixes cars." Another said, "My dad makes pancakes shaped like dinosaurs." Laughter filled the room. Daniel felt something unfamiliar, envy. Not of their skills, but of their presence. Of being needed in such simple, powerful ways. Then Lily's name was called. She stood slowly. Daniel wanted to reach out, to steady her, but he stayed still. "My daddy," Lily began, then paused. The room waited. "My daddy isn't really my daddy," she said softly. A hush fell. She looked up at Daniel, then back at her classmates. "But he came anyway," she continued. "He didn't have to. He's very busy. But he chose me for today." Daniel swallowed hard. "So that means," Lily finished, her voice strong now, "that makes him special." Ms. Alvarez wiped her eyes. So did several parents. Daniel didn't remember standing up, but suddenly he was. He crossed the room in 3 steps and knelt in front of Lily. "You did great," he whispered. She smiled. "You didn't disappear." After school, the crowd thinned. Parents gathered children, lunches were packed away, and life returned to its usual rhythm. Daniel walked Lily and her mother, Anna, toward their apartment. "I don't know how to thank you," Anna said quietly. She hasn't talked about anything else for weeks. Daniel looked at Lily skipping ahead. "You don't need to," he said. But the truth was, he didn't want the day to end. Days passed. Then weeks. Daniel told himself he was just checking in. That ice cream trips and school supply deliveries were convenient coincidences. That answering Lily's calls before board meetings didn't mean anything. But it did. One evening, Lily sat beside him on the couch, legs swinging. "Do I still have to pretend?" she asked. Daniel's breath caught. "Pretend what? That you're my daddy?" Silence stretched between them. Anna watched from the doorway, afraid to hope. Daniel knelt, just like he had that first morning outside the building. "No," he said, voice steady. "You don't." Lily threw her arms around him, crying openly now. Months later, Daniel signed papers he never thought he'd sign. He became a father. Not by blood, by choice. The CEO who once believed control was everything learned the greatest lesson of his life. Sometimes, the most powerful decision you can make is to stay.